This song is I Carry Your Heart With Me. It's just for you.
Thank you, Linda Abar, for starting our service out this afternoon. And welcome everyone to our Fellowship for Today Sunday service. It's so good to be together. We come together at 4 o'clock every Sunday afternoon and just enjoy listening and singing and smiling and growing together. And I want to ask if there's anyone out there who's new to us. We would love to hear from you. Just put that in the comments. I'm new to the fellowship, hello, and to give us a chance to get to know you a little bit better or know that you're with us. And that goes for everyone, of course. We love to interact with each other. That's why this Facebook format is so nice for our live stream on Sunday afternoon. So let's begin together, and I want to invite everyone to join me in an opening meditation. Let's close our eyes and put our hands on our hearts. And we're going to take 2 deep breaths together. And we're going to breathe in and breathe out. Take a nice deep breath in and breathe out. And let's just lay down any heavy weights that we might be carrying with us in our bodies, in our minds, in our hearts. Just lay them down and let them go. And as we do this, tune in and feel the shift in your energy to an open and vast spaciousness of the divine oneness. Open and free, where we can feel the unlimited potential. In this open spaciousness, we know and feel that we are equal creators in the universe. Reminded that our true contribution to the world, caring for and tending to ourselves and each other and our beautiful Mother Earth, is our energetic vibration. With our hearts open wide, we allow the full flow of divine love. In each moment, with enthusiasm and renewed intention, we choose to focus on the unlimited flow of love, of well-being. And as we do this, we feel the momentum quicken as we focus on this flow of clarity and joy, abundance, appreciation, and love. And we are so blessed by this knowing. Blessed by every experience we create during our time here on planet Earth. We hold this oneness, this love in our being as we go into our new week. Open and willing to share with everyone that we come into contact with. Extending that love out to all that are in need, that really rejoice in that new and rejuvenated feeling of love. And together we say, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And now we're going to jump right in and sing a song with Corey Williams.
All right, we're going to do a song from the songbook, one written by our beloved Lucille Olson. This is the 6th guiding principle song called Loving Service. Service builds our community, and it reminds us that we are one. The love we offer to one another supports the justice that is to come. With loving service, peaceful dawn. To spirit, getting is meaningless and giving is all. Teaching 67.
Thank you, Corey, for leading us in our loving service, one of our 6 guiding principle songs that our Reverend Lucille composed for us. We are so fortunate here at the fellowship that we have had such a long legacy of talented people who have created these wonderful songs for us, and that just continues, as you'll see later in the service here. It's so much fun to sing those familiar fellowship songs, so thank you again, Corey. And now I'd like to take a moment for us to bless our tithes and offerings. Let's just take a moment to go within again and find and feel that abundance that we are. Each of us loving abundance, that is our gift, that is our blessing. And as we share our abundance with one another in relationship, with gifts, with coming together in our spiritual community, these blessings are something that we take important time to remember each week. So I'd like for you to join me now as we read our blessing of tithes and offerings. The words are on the screen. The light of divine love shines eternally, blessing and multiplying our tithes and offerings. I joyously give, knowing I always have enough to share and to spare. And we all collectively thank those who generously give their contributions and donations to the fellowship so that we can be here with you every Sunday afternoon, be here with each other. Thank you so much. And now I am very happy to introduce our speaker this afternoon, Reverend Kai Sorensen. And you notice that I prefaced that with Reverend. Kai is our newest Fellowship School of Ministry graduate and ordained minister. And I know he would appreciate your congratulations and acknowledgement of his accomplishment. We are very proud of Reverend Kai. So let's sit back and listen to the message that he's brought us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Kai Sorenson, now Reverend Dr. Kai Sorenson. I'm very pleased to be here with you, having just been recently ordained from the fellowship. Today we're going to be talking about something that might be foreign to most of you. We're going to be looking at a movie called Groundhog Day. And I'm not sure how many of you have seen the movie. This is a movie that's very popular, of course, around February 2nd. It's generally classified to be a romantic comedy with Bill Murray and Andy McDowell as the stars. But today we're going to look at it from the perspective of the spiritual messages that are part of this movie. I will confess that after seeing it and enjoying the movie and seeing it a number of times, maybe once a year around February 2nd, it came to my attention that there's a very specific spiritual message that's being communicated in this movie. And today we're going to talk a little bit about it. So if you haven't seen the movie, it's a spoiler alert for you. We're going to be talking about some of the things that happen in the movie, but I'm still going to recommend that you see it so that you can gain this certain message that's coming through the movie that I think could be a very powerful one for you in your life. So let's start at the beginning. The movie is based around the notion that on February 2nd in Pixatani, Pennsylvania, a groundhog will emerge from its hiding place, its home, and it will either see its shadow or not see its shadow. And if it sees its shadow, we will have 6 more months, or 6 more weeks rather, of bad weather, of winter. If it doesn't see its shadow, then spring is right around the corner. And so this annual event takes place in a little town in Pennsylvania and is covered by many news outlets. A lot of popular interest in this particular event. And people talk about it either right before or after the groundhog emerges and we find out whether or not there's going to be more winter. It's a sort of an odd event in the sense that we would think a groundhog could predict the winter future. But that plays a part in the movie itself. And so the movie is based upon the fact that Bill Murray, as a television weatherman in Pittsburgh, goes to Pixatani to report on what happens with the groundhog. Andy McDowell plays his producer, the one who is in charge of the videoing and the events that go on there, which they do. They travel to Pixatani, groundhog comes out, he sees his shadow, it's 6 more weeks of bad weather, and they head back to Pittsburgh. At that point, there's a big snowstorm, and they have to turn around and go back to Pixatani for the evening. Bill is actually his name in the movie is Phil, as is the same name of the groundhog, which we'll come back to later. In any case, Phil is a rather egotistical person. He thinks he's very talented, that he's going to be able to move on to bigger and better things in media. And Andy is not buying any of this. In fact, she doesn't really have an interest in him, either as a talent or personally. Well, Bill wakes up the next morning, and it's still February 2nd. And he doesn't really understand. He thinks something has happened. Maybe there's a trick or something that's going on here. But it isn't a trick. He wakes up again on February 2nd. And the next day he wakes up and it's still February 2nd. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And he is stuck in February 2nd, Groundhog's Day. And that's the main plot of the movie, is what happens to him during that time when he finally is able to get to February 3rd at the end of the movie. And the process that he goes through here is what I want to focus on today, is the spiritual journey that he makes to go from where he was on the first day of February 2nd and where he ends up on the last day of February 2nd. Now, I'll just warn you, when you're watching the movie, you'll see a number of different episodes that go on during this time that he's, going through this transition. And it's hard to tell exactly how long he has been stuck in February 2nd by the time he gets out. When Harold Ramis, who used to be one of the original Ghostbusters, wrote and directed this particular movie, he was asked about how long he thinks Phil is actually caught in this event of February 2nd. And he said, well, at least 10 years, if not 30. And I want you to take that in. 10 years, waking up every day, being the same day it was yesterday, for 10 years or 30 years. Others have said it may even have been longer. In any case, this was a journey for Phil, the character, to go from a time when he was stuck to a time in which he was unstuck. And that's what the spiritual message is about in the movie. There are 3 main spiritual principles that we can see as we watch this journey. The first is that practice makes perfect. We see Phil's journey from the beginning when he is very egotistical and he's trying to make the best out of this that he can by enjoying meeting and seducing women on one particular day that he can do over and over again until he's successful, to robbing a bank, to other things that he knows he can get away with because he's going to wake up the next day and it's going to be February 2nd again. He can start over. The second is how to improve the quality of your inner life. And so as we follow Phil through this process, we begin to see some changes in his interests and some changes in his behavior that we would say is showing us what that spiritual journey is. And the third principle that we want to talk about is appreciating that everything you need is at your hands right now. In fact, now is what the movie is all about. He wakes up every day and it's still now. And those of us that are on the path to spirituality and those of us who belong in the new thought paradigm recognize that that's all we have is now. We don't have then and we don't have then. We don't have back and we don't have forward. We have now. And that's really what this movie helps us to understand as Phil's on his journey. Now, after the movie was produced and submitted and released, a number of people came to the original audiences, and when they left, they had profound reactions to this. In fact, Ramis was quoted as saying that he heard from nearly every religious practice about how well they accepted the movie because it was teaching the very same things that they were teaching in their services. He heard from Catholics, he heard from Jews, he heard from Buddhists, he heard from Hindus, he heard from Muslims, he heard from Wiccans. And so they all had the same message to him, that what was being taught or what they saw as the message of this movie was completely aligned with what they're teaching in their services. And we're going to explore a little bit of that today. I do have a number of cards that I want to share with you from a couple of different sources. The first is really from the book, The Power of Being Present, or The Power of Being Now, and also from some Law of Attraction. So I will have sharing some of those cards with you and give you a little bit of the history as we move through the movie. The primary interest here is how we would create our own reality. In the initial investigation, my investigation of the spirituality here, I explored the notion of why was this happening on Groundhog Day? Why is it on Groundhog Day that he gets stuck, okay? Well, I looked up what the symbolism and spiritual message from the groundhog is, and it was quite interesting. The groundhog symbolism is asking you to explore altered states of consciousness more deeply. By doing this, you will feel able to find your answers within yourself. However, the spirit animal is letting you know that you have not dug deep enough to find the root of it. Therefore, the groundhog message is clear that you must dig deeper. And this is exactly what happens to Phil in the movie. He has to go inside, not as his own doing, but because eventually he turns to that, because every other day is the same day as yesterday. So he begins to look inside and try to find what really resonates for him. So he begins the process of going deeper. And this starts in the movie when he's walking past the street and he sees an old man laying in an alleyway who is about to die. And he picks him up and he takes him to the restaurant and he gets him some food. And you see later in another episode where the man actually dies and he's trying to get him revived and he can't do it, and he takes him to the hospital and the man dies at the hospital. And there's a very important exchange there where the nurse says, you know, yeah, he died. And Phil says, what did he die of? And he said, well, he was old and he just died of natural causes. And Phil says, not today, he isn't. And so he goes and looks at his chart, and near the end of the movie, we find out that he has helped save this man's life and he's returned him to health. That's one of the progresses that he made when he found that he cared about somebody else rather than about himself. And so that was a very important part of the movie spiritually, where he makes that transition to stop working and thinking about what he's going to be doing, but is going to help somebody else. Along the way, he also decides that he wants to take piano lessons. And at the end of the movie, we see that he is now playing in a combo at a dance at the end of the event of February 2nd. And so he's playing the piano as if he'd been playing it all of his life. So he took all that time to learn how to play the piano so that he could entertain others and not just have something that's true for himself. You also see the evolution that he makes with Rita, who is Andy McDowell's character, where he begins with hoping that he's going to be able to make some progress with her in the one day that he has. And so he tries to manipulate her into telling him things about herself that he's going to be able to use tomorrow when it's the same day for him, and he gets to try it again. And as that evolves, he becomes less and less interested in her and more interested in things that he can do to help the people in Puxatani. And so that particular part of the process is very spiritual for him as well. Although I don't think he would say that he is, although there is a part of the movie where he's sitting in the restaurant talking to Rita about this and says, I'm a god. And she says, you're not a god. And he says, well, I'm not the god, but I'm a god. And that's really how he sees himself, that he is able to use his one day that he has to become more spiritually connected to himself and to the people that are around him. And in that way, I think that we can see the message that's being underlined here as we go through the plot. So I just wanted to run by some of the groundhog spirit, excuse me, words that are associated with the spirit of the groundhog. Change, community, connection, consciousness, rebirth, and resurrection. Character's name, as I mentioned, was Phil, as is the same name of the groundhog. So we can see that there is some connection there that the authors and the writers are trying to make between the emergence of the groundhog and the emergence of Phil himself. He becomes very loyal and helpful and sensitive by the end of the movie. He walks down the sidewalk and catches a boy falling out of a tree. At another place, I mentioned the old man that he helps now recover from full health. He goes into a restaurant where a man is choking, and he helps with the Heimlich maneuver of him spitting out the steak that he's eating and saves him from sort of a medical emergency. And women are driving their car, they get a flat tire, and he rushes in with a way to change that tire for them. And the culmination of it, there's a couple that's trying to think if they're going to get married or not, and he meets them in the restaurant, and he gives them at the dance, after he's played with the combo, tickets to WrestleMania, and they're just so excited that they're going to be able to go to WrestleMania. So he uses the time that he's there to get to know the people and get friendly with them and understand them and want to be some part of that community, whereas at the beginning of the movie, he hates going there, he hates the little town, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with the people that are in that community. Now at this point, I'll also share that there is a personal connection for me in this, because although the movie is supposedly set in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, the movie was actually filmed in Woodstock, Illinois, where I happened to have lived for a short time in Illinois before I moved back to Michigan. So as I watched the movie, I can recognize all of the buildings and the places where they held the movie. I got to meet some of the people in the town who were there when the movie was filmed. So it has a sort of a personal connection for me as well. But the personal connection of that piece has really helped me to understand the spiritual connection that I feel when I'm watching this movie. I want to share some of the other insights that I got from some of the research I did about the spirituality. I went on a website called Quora, Quora.com, which you can go on, and talks a little bit about how the movie Groundhog Day is the essence of spirituality. Literally living in the present and embracing love and compassion. It represents the Islamic mystic tradition and also Zen. Wiccans are mentioned there. They require viewing of the Groundhog Day every year. This is a requirement for Wiccans. It's one of the four great sabbats that divide the year in midpoints between the solstices and the equinoxes. So Groundhog Days for the Wiccan is a very special day, and they require their followers to watch Groundhog Day to help understand it. Another quote from the Quora website, the higher power, being the universe, God, Buddha, whatever, gives Phil the opportunity to enlighten himself, to change, to better not just himself, but the world around him, the community he lives in. That's the essence of spirituality. And one of the things I'm left with after I watch the movie is this recognition that Phil never knows whether he's ever going to be able to get out of February 2nd. And so every day he wakes up not knowing if he's going to be out of it February 3rd tomorrow or not. So he's sort of grounded himself in the notion that if this is the day I've got, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm not just going to try to find pleasures for myself. I want to be here in this community so that I can connect with the people in a way that I've never connected with anyone. Some of the other interesting quotes that I found as I did some research is, it's a metaphor for Judaism, Dr. Goldstein, a rabbi emeritus in New York City, says, "Good deeds beget good deeds. Work doesn't end until the world is perfected." And so that's really what Phil was doing, was good deeds in the community. There's a indication in the connection to Buddhism, where the beliefs from the Buddhists is that nobody ever imagines they're going to escape from samsara, which is the place where they would move once they've completed their involvement and integration into Buddhism. And so what it says there is that the person never actually goes there. They turn around and come back and help others. And that's really what Phil does. He comes back and he helps the little boy falling out of the tree. He helps the women that need a flat tire. He helps the man who's choking in the restaurant. He helps the man who dies in the alleyway. And so he doesn't just live for himself. He begins to help other people in that same way. Also, there's a metaphor for psychoanalysts that I ran into, where one of the authors says that obviously the movie is a metaphor for psychoanalysis. We revisit the same stories and keep reliving the same patterns in our lives until we do something about it spiritually. There's a really interesting scene where Phil's kind of given up at one point in the movie. He commits suicide several times and he always comes back alive the next day. But there's a really interesting scene where he's sitting in his underwear and a robe in the home where he's staying, the bed and breakfast where he's staying, watching Jeopardy. And of course, he'd watched Jeopardy so many times now that he knows the answers before the questions are even asked. And he's amazing the other people that are sitting there watching with him, that he has, this superpower to be able to answer a question before it's even asked. There's a scene where he's with Rita and trying to make sure that she's still with him when he wakes up, and of course she's gone every day that he does that. But they're sitting on the bed flipping cards into a hat at the end of the bed, and he's doing every one of them, and she can't do it at all. And she says, "How'd you get so good at this?" And he says, "Well, of 6 months of trying, this is what I'm able to do now." And really, that's how he filled his days before he made the transition to thinking that I'm stuck here. I'm going to make the best of it. And I think that that's a lesson that we can all learn from in terms of the power of now. See if you can catch yourself complaining in either speech or thought about a situation you find yourself in, what other people do or say, your surroundings, your life situation, even the weather. To complain is always non-acceptance of what is. And that's where Phil started. He really didn't care very much about this community or what the story was he was doing. Break the old pattern of present moment denial and present moment resistance. Make it your practice to withdraw attention from past and future whenever they are not needed. Step out of the time dimension as much as possible in everyday life. The power of now. So these are the kinds of things that I really have begun to understand about what the message of the movie is. And so I hope that this will encourage you, if you've already seen the movie, to go back and put sort of different glasses on to try to understand what's being communicated to us there about the spirituality. And if you haven't seen it, this would be a great opportunity to go and do that now, because I think this connection, like I said, you'll probably enjoy the movie. It's funny. There are a lot of scenes in it that are very interesting. But once you've seen it, I would say watch it again and start to pick up on how that transition that Phil makes, and what would it be like for you to be stuck in the same day, day after day, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What's it like for you to be stuck in that place today? Because that's all we have, is the now. So I'd like to end with a meditation, some spiritual thoughts for us. So take a deep breath and let it go. And close your eyes. And think of some things that may have come up for you while we were talking about the spiritual practices that we can see in the movie. And be in that place of openness to your own connection to spirit. At a less radical extreme, all men seek something that men sought before them, something that beckons them on. Perhaps it's their role in the future, Or perhaps it's a childhood dream. Perhaps it's a complex search for the answers to the mysteries of the universe. It's a simpler quest, a quest to beautifully and successfully maintain a family. A sane and fulfilling life can be the most challenging quest of all, as Bill finds. The spiritual quest may bring us to a point of gratitude, worship, and enlightenment. It may bring us to a nakedness of soul and openness of heart. The road that winds from the boy or the girl with a dirty face and punkish grin to the illuminated man and woman at ease in the world can be a long one. But it is traversable within each of our lifetimes. And that may be the quest we're here for after all. Any life, no matter how long and complex it may be, is made up of a single moment. The moment in which a man or woman finds out, once and for all, who he is. Each moment is the fruit of 40,000 years. And from Deepak Chopra, spirit has always been elusive. An ancient Indian scripture informs us that a knife cannot cut it, water cannot wet it, wind cannot blow it away, the sun cannot dry it up. Every molecule in the universe is permeated with being. Every thought you have, every bit of information that reaches you through your five senses is nothing but being. But being can be overlooked, since it is completely silent, like a master choreographer that never joins the dance. In being, we are all upheld. We take our very breath and life from it. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste.
Hi everyone, so good to be back with you today. I'd like to share a song that I recently wrote called The Journey. Walk with me and talk with me as I journey on this path. Either way, though I may stray, our bond forever last. Each new day, blessings flow, each night a rest so sweet. So walk with me and talk with me, and always guide my feet. All I see, each flower and tree, and every blade of grass, the stars at night shining so bright, their beauty shall not pass. Every living creature connected, one and all. So hold my hand and I will stand in oneness with it all. Each rocky road and heavy load, a lesson to be learned. The twists and winding paths I take, my heart and mind are turned into a deeper wisdom within me growing now. So walk with me and talk with me, the oneness I allow. So walk with me and talk with me, the oneness I allow.
It's really been another wonderful service, and we all want to thank Linda Abar and Corey Williams, Julie Ross for your brand new song, and Reverend Lucille Olson for her composition of our sing-along song today. I made mention that we have had so many talented artists that have brought to the fellowship some wonderful, wonderful songs. And Julie Ross is our newest addition. She's just really enjoying creating. So we want to thank her a lot for sharing that with us. And thank you so much, Reverend Kai Sorensen. I know I will be finding my way back to the Groundhog Day movie and rewatching that. It's been years since I've seen it, but I'm going to see it with a whole new perspective now. One of the things that really popped out at me when you were talking about Bill Murray's lessons that he learned during his Groundhog Day experience is that he never knew how long he was going to be there, how long it was going to take to get out of that Groundhog Day. And I feel like many of us have been feeling that same way as we've made our way through this last year of this pandemic that we've been dealing with. We have been so unsure about when this is all going to be able to, be put behind us. And I really think that's an important message to all of us, is to, be here now and every day in this moment and do what we can do, what we're able to do to stay connected and stay in community and make our lives purposeful as much as we possibly can, even though we have these constraints because of the pandemic. So thank you so much for your message. A couple of announcements. I want to make everyone aware that the best way to keep up with what's going on at the fellowship is through our weekly e-announcements. These are emails that come to you on Tuesday, early afternoon. If you're finding that you're not getting those, our suggestion is to make sure that you put the fellowship email address in your contacts, and that is info@fellowshipfortoday.org. We can put that in the comments for you as well. And if you still find that you're having problems, please feel free to contact Samantha at the office, and she'll walk that through you and troubleshoot with you. It's just so nice because there's so many things in the e-announcement, including articles and community events that are going on. So don't miss out on that. Also, in the upcoming e-announcements on Tuesday, you'll find another opportunity to vote for our 2 new steering committee members if you haven't already done so. We'll also put a link in our comments today during the service that you can use. And if you, again, have any issues with that, just contact Samantha here at the office. It feels so good to be together, and it makes me smile. It makes my heart smile every Sunday when we're here together. So now it is the end of our service, and it's our time to create this big, beautiful peace circle that we've been creating for so many years. And new people are coming into our circle with us, and we welcome them so wholeheartedly. So let's stretch out our arms and feel the hands of our neighbors in ours as we sing our Peace Circle song. And we will close with our closing blessing. The words are on the screen for those who are new to us. And I just want to say thank you again for being here. We love this time together. I want you to know how much I love you, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday.